Hello, I'm Javon Brown Lewis, the Youth Engagement Specialist for the Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods, and I have co-led the National Youth Violence Prevention Week efforts with the help of my youth implementation team that works out of the Mayor's Office and the Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods. This week, our theme is Build a Better Future. With youth violence prevention efforts, that is what we hope to do as an office and as a city. I have worked with countless youth serving organizations within the city, like Cities United and Metro United Way, Jefferson County Public Schools, Boston's Not Bangers, and other partners within our office. We have a week of events planned to elevate youth voices and bring them to the table because they are the people who hold the key to their own future. So tomorrow, we have a networking night at the Louisville Free Public Library from 6 to 7:30. On Wednesday, we have a youth panel that we partner with Cities United to really elevate the voices of the youth in our city and from youth all around the country. On Thursday, we have an open mic called Let Me Speak that will be right here at this YMCA that is partnering with the TRC organization and community partners like Ashley Phillips and DeMarco Harris with Worth the Words. The open mic is really important to us because it allows youth to share poetry and the things that are on their minds and on their hearts as we continue through this week of events. On Friday, we have the Photo Voice Art Gallery, partnering with the Blocks program, the Center for Social Justice Youth Development Research at U of L, and JCPS. This project was done in 2020 with the youth implementation team and with Dr. Asha Brown at U of L to really elevate youth voice through the use of photography with the hopes of creating some type of policy initiative or research at the end of that. And then to cap off this week on Saturday at the Louisville Free Public Library, we will have an Ambassadors Institute training that was led by the Ambassadors Institute here at the Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods. This Ambassadors Institute training will allow youth to become more civically engaged through policy and research, through mental health efforts within our city, through civic engagement, and they will also learn about domestic violence and violence awareness. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Soliana Messman, who is a member of this cohort for the youth implementation team, who has been right there with me and her team members planning these events for the city and for you all. Thank you.
You're tall. Okay. Thank you so much, Javon. So National Youth Violence Prevention Week is a nationwide effort that effectively addresses the urgency and severity of youth violence. Communities across the country have taken part to spread awareness and educate their surroundings in forms of week-long events that focus on youth elevation and prevention strategies. This movement is a call to action for cities to recognize different forms of violence and to actively seek ways of equitable resolution. We are glad to say that for the past several years, Louisville has led the effort in prioritizing the implementation of NYVPW. Here in Louisville, this week is curated for youth by youth. And for the past couple of months, youth representing diverse ranges of districts across the city have convened in order to design the message and itinerary for NYVPW 2022. We have established partners and conducted advisories that led to the introduction of programs and safe spaces. They will tell you nothing progressed without our consent. More importantly, we vow to prioritize the hurt of so many Louisvillians caused by senseless violence as a propeller in our message. Our team recognizes that our experience is not the experience and that different communities endure different forms of violence. We approach this vital week with an open mind, a willingness to learn, and courage to pursue activism wherever needed. We hope that the events occurring this week will set a standard and empower young leaders to advocate alongside their peers. Now more than ever, the next generation needs to be at the forefront. We are both the present and the future, and as a city, it is our job to correct the wrongdoings of the past to prevent history from repeating itself. We have let down so many people, and it's through education and transparency that will discontinue the lineage of pain. Additionally, we need for those in power to use their privilege and let us speak. There are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to youth violence. The false assumptions that come from institutions and organizations only set us further from achieving solace. Youth violence centers youth, and it is vital that adults know where they stand in the movement. We urge for adults to leverage their resources to serve as a dedicated ally to those affected. We need you to listen, and not only to listen, but to advocate alongside us. NYVPW serves as our outlet to be transparent and to fight for what we believe in. When we talk about something as sensitive as violence, we gain a connection that is powerful enough to influence policy and shape communities. The fact of the matter is, our power is unstoppable. We have proven that fact several times, whether that be in the fight to achieve racial justice or our ability to prioritize our well-being given the pandemic. Regardless, we will continue to advocate for our livelihood, but we need institutions to equitably and ethically support our fight and those victims of violence. NYVPW 2022 opens that dialogue and encourages youth to unleash their potential to be change makers. Given this week's importance, it is only fitting to title the theme, Building a Better Future. This isn't an easy process. There is no one-step implementation, and we will not receive results quickly. This team aims to initiate several conversations that directly lead to action. Building a better future encompasses addressing violence prevention from all of its components, supporting those who have been affected, educating others on the severity, and displaying advocacy methods and policy transactions. As we highlight youth violence throughout the week, it is important to note that our movement does not end on Saturday. This week serves as a stepping stone for our city to combat violence for our future. Again, when an act of violence occurs, we cannot afford to simply send our prayers. We need to see action. I stand here today as a person who has been deeply affected by violence in this city, and so have the majority of our youth. We need to see the groundwork for a better future today, because every day a young person and their family is damaged by this violence. I'm excited to see this week unravel and the action that will be produced as a result. Thank you all so very much. I will now pass it on to Chief Talley to deliver his report.
Thank you, Soliana. Appreciate it. My name is Keith Talley. I'm the Chief of Community Building for Louisville Metro Government. Soliana is one of our incredible youth team members. It is her voice and the voices of all of our young people that we must listen to. If we do, we will hear just how much the unacceptable level of gun violence in our community and the increased number of youth involved in this violence is robbing our kids of the future that we have promised them. And let's be clear, the impact of violence goes far beyond just the victims and the perpetrators, far beyond just lives lost, futures altered, families torn apart, and neighborhoods and communities in crises. It speaks to the years of racism, bigotry, disinvestment, and abandonment that so many have suffered for generations, and that has created an environment that fosters and fuels the level of violence we are now seeing. Javon Brown spoke earlier and has a quote at the end of all of his emails. It is from James Baldwin, and it explains so well why this week is so important, why we must listen to what our kids are trying to tell us, and why we must all get involved. And the quote reads, "If I love you, I must make you conscious of the things you do not see." As bad as it is for so many, there are so many more that do not see. We must open their eyes to the tragedy that is unfolding before us. We need everyone to get involved, not just those who are impacted by the violence every day, but maybe even more importantly, those that do not see it or feel it as a part of their daily lives. We need everyone to help save a generation of young black boys and girls and men and women from a future without hope. And that's the message during National Youth Violence Prevention Week. Our goal is to raise awareness about what we all need to do and what we can do to address this problem. And this is not just a Louisville problem. This is a national problem. A few statistics from the, according to the Everytown for Gun Safety Research, firearms are the leading cause of death for children and teens ages 1 through 19 in the U.S. Every year, 18,000 children and teens are shot and killed or wounded, and approximately 3 million are exposed to gun violence. When homes, neighborhoods, schools, and communities are not safe from gun violence, entire generations of children are affected. And these impacts are not equitable. Black children and teens are 14 times more likely than white children and teens to die from gun homicide. 14 times more likely. Over the past decade, the firearm suicide rate among children and teens has increased 59%. 4.6 million American children live in homes with at least one gun that is loaded and unlocked. We owe it to our kids to do all that we can as a community, all of us, to keep them, their families, and our neighborhoods safe. Because witnessing a violent crime, worrying about a violent crime, or being directly impacted by violent crime should never be a normal way of life for a child. Through the work of the administration and the support and approval of Metro Council, we have allocated millions of dollars to help address this challenge. The Group Violence Intervention Program, greatly expanded program at our Office of Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods and the Office of Youth Development, Kentuckiana Works, JCPS, all work daily to address this problem, and not to mention the many grassroots organizations and community nonprofits such as Volunteers of America, Goodwill, Game Changers, just to name a few that have joined in this fight. I want to thank the young people and encourage them to continue to step up and speak out. Your voice is important. And I want to encourage the rest of us to get involved, stay involved, and do our part to provide our children with the opportunities and the future they deserve. Now I'd like to introduce Ocean Assistant Director Amber Burns-Jones. She will talk a little more about this week's activities, the work of her office, and the ways we can strategically reduce violence in Louisville. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, Chief Talley. I just want to say that the Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods is committed to addressing violence from its roots to its fruits. And that work includes violence intervention, community outreach and engagement, building a more trauma-resilient community by training mental health professionals and making mental health services more accessible in communities most impacted by violence, and funding and building the capacity of organizations who are doing the work of violence prevention every day and will do so long after us. Our hope is to act as a conduit for violence reduction and prevention in what is a community-wide effort, addressing not just the devastating outcomes of violence, but one day harvesting the seeds before they are able to take root. And this week, that looks like 6 days of centering youth voice. A week is not enough time to hear all of the voices that need to be heard, but it is an opportunity to begin. It is an opportunity to present an invitation so that the conversations can continue beyond this week's final event. National Youth Violence Prevention Week is our chance to pass the mic to our young people, step out of their way, and allow them to lead the conversation. But then it's up to us to take action via policy, programs, and the like. And at this time, I want to bring the attention to another youth organization, a group of artists who are also using their voices to make change and have a conversation in our communities. It is my pleasure to introduce the Real Young Prodigies.
Why grew up there, wanna be gangsters? Why grew up there, wanna be bangers? Why grew up there, wanna be slangers? Danger, danger, danger. Why grew up there, wanna be killers? Why grew up there, wanna be killers? Why grew up there, wanna be still be real, be real, be real, be real. Never 14 what you going to be. Only 16 what you going to see. Going to be. We not happy. Y'all come to the team. Take your seat. Let's go feet. If he did, we're walking in West Georgia, wanna be flex, flex.
That was phenomenal. Let's give them a round of applause one more time, one more time. Yes. And please let that serve as an example on what it looks like to elevate youth voice. Not just through the Real Young Prodigies and the Mayor's Youth Implementation Team, but through many youth serving organizations around the city that are doing work just like this. So I thank you all for coming out. I thank everybody for coming to speak and showing your dedication to National Youth Violence Prevention Week and dedication to building a better future for tomorrow's youth. Thank you.